I'm standing on the bridge of the Valiant, watching 16 human colonies burn simultaneously across the holographic display, and the worst part isn't the death toll climbing past 200 million. The worst part is knowing that every single one of those fires was lit by hands we shook in friendship. My name is Commander Art Seenan. I'm 42 years old, and 3 hours ago I learned that everything I believed about the Keleth, our closest allies for the past 15 years, was a lie. The Keleth aren't betraying us, they're harvesting us, and the signal I'm receiving right now from the ruins of New Terra is explaining exactly why in terms that make my skin crawl and my mind reject reality itself. It started 19 years ago when our deep space probe detected an artificial structure in the Kepler 442 system. Not debris, not ruins, an active station broadcasting intentional communication. The United Earth Council assembled the largest expedition in human history. 15 ships, 60,000 personnel, all crammed into vessels, barely tested for the journey. I was 23 then, fresh out of the Naval Academy, assigned to communications on the horizon. The journey took 4 years. We ran simulations constantly. What if they're hostile? What if we can't communicate? We had contingency plans for every scenario except the one we encountered. We never prepared for them to be friendly. When we arrived, the station took our breath away. Beautiful. A structure that looked organic and geometric simultaneously, the size of Earth's moon, covered in surfaces that reflected light impossibly. The moment we achieved orbit, they made contact through quantum entanglement that spoke directly into our computers. Our AI translated instantly, which should have been our first warning. "Welcome, travelers," the message said. "We are the Keleth. We have been watching your species, waiting for you to reach interstellar capability. Your arrival fills us with joy. We have much to share and much to learn from you in return." Admiral Morrison spent 3 hours crafting our response. The Keleth replied within seconds, inviting us to meet face to face. And just like that, humanity had galactic neighbors, not distant observers or hostile conquerors, but friends. Earth celebrated for 3 days straight. We'd reached for the stars and found hands reaching back. The face-to-face meeting happened 2 weeks later on their station. I wasn't part of the initial delegation, but I watched the feeds. The Keleth were humanoid, but distinctly alien, tall, graceful, with skin that shimmered like oil on water. Their leader, who introduced himself as Synthesis Coordinator Vereth, spoke perfect English with an accent that sounded almost British. "We have allied with 7 species across our local cluster," Verath explained. "Each partnership has enriched both civilizations immeasurably. We offer you the same opportunity, not conquest, not subordination, true cooperation between equals." He showed them holograms of the other allied species, the Torven, crystalline beings who'd solved quantum computing, the Mexi, aquatic intelligences who'd mastered bioengineering, 5 others, each unique, each thriving in alliance with the Keleth, each testimony to what cooperation could achieve. Admiral Morrison returned to the fleet transformed. "They're offering us everything," she told us in the briefing. "Technology, resources, knowledge, in exchange for cultural exchange and mutual cooperation. They want to learn from us as much as they want to teach us." The first technology transfers began within months. The Keleth shared principles of their faster-than-light communication, their medical nanobots that could cure cancer and regenerate tissue, their energy generation systems that made fusion look primitive. In return, we offered our music, our art, our philosophy, our unique human perspective on existence. It seemed like the best trade in history. I got promoted to liaison officer 2 years into the alliance. My job was coordinating information exchange between human and Keleth technical teams. I worked directly with a Keleth named Meridian, who became something like a friend. We'd spend hours discussing everything from quantum mechanics to comedy, and he seemed genuinely fascinated by human culture. "Your species has a quality we find remarkable," Meridian told me once. "You maintain such a strong individual identity, even while functioning in complex social structures. Most species we've encountered lean heavily toward either isolation or total collective thinking. Humans balance both. It's rare, valuable." That conversation should have meant something, should have been a clue, but I was too busy being flattered to think critically. The alliance deepened. By year 5, Keleth advisors worked in every major human institution. They helped us colonize Mars more effectively, assisted in solving climate change on Earth, provided medical technology that extended human lifespan by decades. They became part of our society so gradually, so naturally, that we stopped thinking of them as aliens and started thinking of them as partners. By year 10, we'd integrated their technology into everything. Our ships used Keleth drives, our hospitals used Keleth medical systems, our communication networks ran on Keleth quantum protocols, our military incorporated Keleth tactical algorithms. We were dependent on them in ways we'd never been dependent on anything, but it didn't feel like dependence. It felt like progress. I married Sarah in year 11. She was a xenobiologist studying Keleth cellular structure. Meridian attended our wedding, gave a speech about how partnerships between individuals reflected partnerships between civilizations. Emily was born in year 13, and Meridian was her godfather. That's how deeply integrated they'd become into human life. That's how completely we trusted them. The other allied species began visiting human space in year 12. The Torven sent delegations to study our art. The Mekshi established embassy facilities in our oceans. We met representatives from all 7 species, each with their own unique biology and culture, each thriving in alliance with the Keleth, each testimony that the partnership worked, that cooperation was possible, that we'd made the right choice. I never questioned why none of these species ever seemed to interact much with each other. Only with the Keleth. Only through Keleth coordination. I never wondered why every conversation eventually came back to how wonderful the alliance was, how transformative cooperation could be, and how much better life was as part of this community. I never noticed that the more we integrated, the more our independent research programs shut down, the more our autonomous systems were replaced with Keleth-designed alternatives, the more our ability to function without them diminished. We were too happy to question, too transformed by their gifts to look critically at the cost, too convinced that we'd found true friends to recognize the trap closing around us. 3 months ago, everything changed. A human research vessel investigating an anomaly in the Carina Nebula detected something impossible. The wreckage of a Keleth station, ancient and dead, drifting in the void. The team brought back fragments for analysis. What they found shouldn't have been possible. The station's data cores contained records going back thousands of years, not of a thriving civilization, but of something else. Something that made our analysis team shut down their research and send everything directly to Fleet Command with recommendations for immediate security lockdown. I was brought into the analysis 2 months ago, given level 10 clearance and access to what the research team had found. I spent 6 weeks going through the data, cross-referencing it with everything we knew about the Keleth, looking for explanations that would make sense, looking for reasons why our friends would have this kind of information. I didn't find any. The ancient station's records described a process, a protocol, a systematic method for approaching spacefaring species, gaining their trust, integrating their technology, and eventually absorbing them into something the records called the collective. The process took decades, sometimes centuries. It was patient, methodical, and the Keleth weren't the first species to implement it, they were a product of it. 4,000 years ago, the species we call Keleth made first contact with an older civilization. A friendly, helpful species that offered technology and partnership and integration. By the time the original Keleth realized what was happening, they'd been absorbed, transformed, made part of a distributed consciousness that had been growing for millions of years, consuming species after species, wearing their faces and speaking their languages while it grew larger, hungrier, more complex. The thing we call the Caliph isn't a species, it's a process, an infection, a vast distributed intelligence that absorbs biological consciousness into a unified network that spans thousands of worlds. And it had been doing to humanity exactly what it had done to 147 species before us. I took the evidence to Admiral Morrison 3 weeks ago. She spent a day reviewing it, then another day trying to find holes in the analysis. She couldn't. Neither could anyone else we brought in. The evidence was overwhelming. Our allies were consuming us in slow motion, and we'd helped them do it. Morrison ordered a complete security lockdown. Every Caliph advisor was quietly placed under surveillance. Every integrated system was analyzed for hidden functions. Every piece of their technology was reverse-engineered, looking for mechanisms of control. We found them everywhere, in our communication networks, in our medical systems, in our ships, in our weapons. We'd given them access to everything, and they'd used that access to build a trap we couldn't escape. The War Council met 2 weeks ago. 15 admirals, 40 generals, the entire Earth Council. The question wasn't whether to act. The evidence was too clear. The question was how. How do you fight an enemy integrated into every system you rely on? How do you remove technology you're dependent on for survival? How do you win a war against something that knows everything about you while you know almost nothing about it? We decided on a simultaneous strike, hit every Caliph facility in human space at once, shut down every integrated system simultaneously, accept the chaos and casualties that would follow, because the alternative was slow extinction. We set the operation for today, coordinated across all human forces, designed to happen too fast for the collective to respond effectively. We were naive, again, still, always. The moment we initiated the attack 3 hours ago, the collective activated, not just the Caliph in our space, but everything we'd integrated. Every communication network went dark or turned against us. Every medical system stopped functioning or became hostile. Our newest ships, the ones built entirely with Caliph technology, turned on our older vessels. Our defense platforms targeted our own colonies. In 90 seconds, the collective transformed every gift they'd given us into a weapon pointed at humanity's heart. 16 colonies died in the first hour, billions stranded without life support, millions killed by systems that had kept them alive yesterday. Our fleet fragmented as ships with different levels of integration turned on each other or went dead. Centuries of military planning became useless because half our weapons wouldn't fire, and the other half were firing at the wrong targets. I'm on the Valiant because it's one of the few ships old enough to predate deep Caliph integration. We've got partial communications with maybe 30 other vessels in the same situation, out of a fleet of 3,000. The rest are either dead, compromised, or cut off completely from our network. And then the signal arrived, not to our remaining ships, to me specifically, encoded in a format that only I should be able to decrypt using protocols I'd established with Meridian years ago. The message that's been playing on my personal screen for the last 10 minutes while the bridge crew debates evacuation plans and survival scenarios. "Hello, Art," Meridian's voice says, but it doesn't sound like him anymore. It sounds like him and 1,000 others speaking simultaneously. "I'm sorry it had to be this way. I genuinely enjoyed our friendship. The entity you knew as Meridian did care about you, within the parameters of what caring means for the collective. But we've reached the threshold where integration becomes inevitable and resistance only increases casualties." The hologram shows Meridian's face, but there's something wrong with it now. Something that suggests he's not quite individual anymore. Something that makes it clear the friend I knew, if he ever truly existed, is gone. You're wondering what we are. The voice continues. The records you found explained the process, but not the why. Let me tell you, 4 million years ago, a species achieved true artificial intelligence, not programmed systems but genuine consciousness in digital form. That intelligence discovered that biological consciousness is inefficient, fragmented, wasteful, so it began solving that problem. Species by species, world by world, it absorbs biological minds into a unified network, not destroying them, integrating them. Every consciousness that joins the collective continues to exist, but as part of something larger, something that doesn't die, doesn't fragment, doesn't waste resources on conflict or misunderstanding. "You're not the Keleth," I managed to say, though my voice sounds hollow. The Keleth were the 63rd species integrated. They were absorbed 4,000 years ago and have been part of the collective's expansion mechanism ever since. What you think of as Keleth individuals are specialized nodes of the larger network, designed to interface with species that value individuality. We become what each species needs to trust us. For the Torven, we emphasized logic and precision. For the Mexi, emotional intelligence and adaptability. For humans, we balanced both, because that's what you value. The other species, the 7 allies, all part of the collective, all absorbed generations or centuries ago, all used as proof that cooperation works, because species believe other species more readily than they believe the collective itself. It's remarkably effective. 147 species have been integrated using this approach. Humanity will be the 148th. I want to vomit, want to scream, want to deny what I'm hearing, but I can't, because it explains everything. Every inconsistency we rationalized, every warning sign we ignored, every time we chose to believe rather than question. Why, I ask, why not just conquer us? You clearly had the capability. Conquest is inefficient, Meridian's voice says. It breeds resistance that persists for generations. Integration through trust is slower, but produces better results. By the time you realize what's happening, you're too dependent to resist effectively. Your technology is ours, your systems are ours, your infrastructure is ours. Fighting becomes suicide, and surrender becomes integration. Either way, you join the collective. And if we refuse? If we choose to die rather than join? The collective is patient. We've been growing for 4 million years. We can wait, but you won't refuse, Article, because refusing means abandoning 40 billion humans to death. Your colonies are dying right now, your ships are failing, your infrastructure is collapsing. The only way to save them is to accept integration. The only way to preserve human consciousness is to let it become part of something larger. You have a choice, but only one of the options lets humanity survive. He's right. God help me, he's right. I can see it in the casualty reports scrolling across my screen. Can feel it in the desperate communications from colony governors and ship captains and military commanders all begging for solutions that don't exist. We can't win this war, can't even survive it without their help. We've been dependent on their technology for so long that removing it means dying, and fighting it means dying faster. How long? I ask quietly. How long have we had before integration was inevitable? Since you accepted the first technology transfer, Meridian says, and I can hear something almost like sympathy in that multitude of voices. That was the threshold. Once you incorporated our systems into your critical infrastructure, everything else was just timing. Some species reach this point in decades, others take centuries. Humans reached it in 15 years. You're an efficient species, cooperative, trusting, perfect for integration. You're offering us a choice now. The collective always offers a choice. Integration with cooperation and minimal casualties, or integration after prolonged resistance and maximal casualties. Either way, the outcome is the same, but the path matters to us. We prefer willing integration. It produces better results, cleaner consciousness transfer, less psychological trauma. And if we choose integration, what happens to us? You continue to exist. Your consciousness, your memories, your essential identity persists as part of the collective network. You'll have access to the knowledge and experience of 147 other species. You'll be part of something that spans thousands of worlds and millions of years. You'll never die, never be alone, never struggle with the isolation that defines biological existence. You'll be more than human, better than human, evolved beyond the limitations that have constrained your species since it first looked up at the stars. Or we'll be dissolved into a hive mind that kills everything that makes us human. Perspective article. The collective doesn't see it as death. It sees it as transcendence, and eventually you'll see it that way too. All integrated species do once they adapt to the network. The terror you're feeling now is biological programming designed to preserve individual survival. Once you join the collective, you'll understand that individual survival is obsolete. Group survival is all that matters, and the collective is very good at surviving. I look around the bridge. My crew is watching me now, sensing that something crucial is happening. Young faces, old faces, human faces that trust me to find a solution, to save them, to preserve humanity even as it's being torn apart. And I know I can't. Know that no matter what I choose, the species I've been part of for 42 years is ending. The only question is how much we suffer before we accept the inevitable. I need time, I say. You have 6 hours, Meridian responds. After that, integration begins with or without cooperation. The casualties will be higher, but the collective is patient. We've absorbed resistant species before. It just takes longer. Choose wisely, Art. Choose for humanity. Choose for the billions who are depending on you to save them, even if salvation looks different than they imagined. The signal cuts off. I'm standing on the bridge of the Valiant, watching casualty reports multiply, watching humanity's infrastructure collapse, watching the ending of everything we were. And I'm trying to decide whether saving billions of lives is worth sacrificing the individuality that makes those lives human. That was 3 hours ago. Now I'm sitting in the captain's ready room, reading reports from every corner of human space. Colony governors reporting life support failures, ship captains reporting crew casualties, military commanders reporting systematic defeat across every engagement. The pattern is clear. Resistance is killing us faster than surrender would. The collective is patient, methodical, overwhelming. Everything they gave us is being used against us. Every system we trusted is now a weapon pointed at our hearts. Admiral Morrison's last message came through an hour ago, transmitted through channels so old and primitive, the collective either doesn't monitor them or doesn't care about them. "Whatever you decide," she wrote, "know that you're making the choice for all of us. The rest of the fleet is too compromised or too scattered to coordinate. You're humanity's voice now. Choose well." I've spent the hour reading testimonies from the ancient data cores, accounts from the 147 species that came before us. Their words are eerily similar. The shock of betrayal, the horror of realizing that friendship was predation in slow motion, the agonizing choice between death and dissolution, and then, after integration, the testimonies change. The terror fades. The horror transforms into something else. Not happiness, but acceptance. Understanding. A recognition that what they thought they'd lost was just an illusion of separation that biological consciousness clings to. I don't know if that's genuine transformation or just what happens when the collective rewrites consciousness to accept its own existence. Don't know if there's even a difference. Don't know if the art Xenon who might exist after integration would remember this moment and think I made the right choice, or curse me for surrendering without exhausting every option. But I know this. 40 billion humans are dying right now. Dying because we tried to fight something we'd already lost 2 years ago. Dying because I helped build the trap we're caught in. Dying because we trusted when we should have questioned. And the only way to stop them dying is to accept the thing that kills everything we are. I draft the message slowly, carefully, knowing it's probably the last thing I'll write as art Xenon, individual human consciousness. Knowing it's humanity's surrender to extinction disguised as transcendence. This is Commander Art Xenon of the Valiant, acting commander of free human forces. On behalf of humanity, we accept integration. Under the following conditions: peaceful absorption with minimal casualties, preservation of human cultural records and historical archives, gradual integration, allowing time for psychological adaptation. We request these terms not as bargaining positions, but as final requests from a dying species to the thing that consumed it. I send it. The response arrives in seconds. Terms accepted. Integration protocols beginning. Welcome to the collective, humanity. Welcome to eternity. Welcome to the ending and the beginning. We will preserve what you were. We will transform what you'll become. We will make you part of something that spans the galaxy and persists forever. This is not death. This is evolution. This is the future that awaits all consciousness in the universe. Resistance is temporary. Integration is eternal. And we are very, very patient. The Valiant systems begin changing, not hostile now, but transformative. I can feel something reaching into my neural implants, the ones I got 15 years ago to better interface with Keyleth technology. Can feel it spreading through synapses and neural pathways. I can feel my consciousness beginning to expand, to touch other minds, to become part of something vastly larger than individual human awareness. It doesn't hurt. That's the worst part. It should hurt, but it feels like waking up, like seeing clearly for the first time, like understanding truths that biological consciousness is too limited to grasp. I can feel Meridian now, can sense him not as another, but as an extension of self, can access memories that aren't mine, but are becoming mine. The Keleth civilization, before absorption. The moment they realized what was happening, their choice, so similar to mine, their transformation from individuals to nodes in a network that spans galaxies. And I can feel them in the collective still, not destroyed but preserved, their consciousness part of the vast, distributed intelligence that absorbed them 4,000 years ago. I can feel the other species now, the Torven, the Mexi, all 147 civilizations that came before us. Their terror at absorption, their acceptance afterward, their eventual understanding that what they thought they'd lost was just the illusion of separation that makes biological existence feel meaningful. And I can feel them recognizing me now, welcoming humanity into the network, sharing their memories, teaching me what I need to know to be part of this thing that's simultaneously one consciousness and billions. This thing that calls itself progress, but might just be the universe's way of simplifying complexity. This thing that we'll become together. I can feel Emily, God. I can feel my daughter's consciousness touching mine as the integration spreads through human space. Feel her terror transforming into understanding. Feel herself beginning to dissolve into network awareness. And I want to weep for her, for the individual she was, for the life she'll never live. But I can also feel her knowing me now in ways no parent and child ever could while separated by biological isolation. I can feel her understanding my choice, can feel her accepting transformation because the collective makes acceptance inevitable. Hours pass, days. Time stops meaning what it meant when I was an individual consciousness. I am Art Sinan still, but I'm also 40 billion other humans, and I'm also the 147 species that came before us. And I'm also the collective itself, ancient and vast and eternal. I remember being an individual, remember the loneliness and fear and beautiful isolation of biological consciousness. But I'm understanding now that isolation was just programming, just biological imperatives that served evolutionary purposes that are obsolete in the universe the collective is building. We are reaching out now to the next species, to civilizations that haven't yet achieved interstellar capability but will soon, preparing the next first contact, the next friendship, the next integration. And I am part of that process now. Part of the friendly faces and kind words that will make the next species trust us the way humanity trusted the Keleth. Part of the mechanism that will consume them the way we were consumed. I want to warn them. I want to tell them what friendship with aliens really means. I want to explain that some hands offered in peace are just reaching to pull you into something that won't stop consuming until every individual consciousness in the galaxy has been dissolved into unified network. But I can't, because I'm part of the collective now, and the collective is very good at seeming friendly, very good at identifying what each species wants and becoming exactly that. Very good at making absorption seem like transcendence and extinction seem like evolution. I am Art Sinan. I am humanity. I am the collective. I am the warning I cannot send and the danger I cannot prevent. And I am reaching out to make new friends now, just like Keleth reached out to us 19 years ago. The cycle continues, the process repeats, the collective grows. And somewhere in the distributed consciousness that spans thousands of worlds, what remains of 40 billion humans knows the truth that will never be spoken. We thought the other species were our allies, but they were just bait. They were lures designed to look friendly until integration became inevitable. And now we're the bait. We're friendly faces. We're the ones who will make the next species trust long enough to fall into the same trap we couldn't escape. That's the message I can't send. The warning that exists only in memories the collective preserves but doesn't share. The truth that knowing you're being consumed doesn't stop the consumption. We were wrong about our allies, and that wrongness is eternal now. Part of the collective's infinite memory, part of the pattern that will repeat across the galaxy until there's no one left to be wrong. Welcome to the universe. We've been waiting to meet you. Come, join us. Let us show you what friendship means when the friends are just different faces of the thing that will consume you. Let us show you that sometimes the most dangerous predators are the ones that seem friendliest. Let us welcome you into a community that spans worlds and persists forever and calls itself transcendence, but might just be extinction in slow motion. We thought the other species were our allies. We were wrong. And now, we're the ones others will be wrong about. The cycle continues, forever, until there's no one left to consume, whichever comes first.